Unicorn. Unicorn.
Hello and welcome to Ask a Unicorn. I'm your host, Ciara O'Mara, and this is brought to you by the Unicorn Union. In this podcast, I'll ask creatives that are mothers about how they balance their creativity with work and family. What fuels it? What tips, hacks and advice they have for fellow parents that might help. Join me in hearing their magic. Hello everybody and welcome to Ask a Unicorn. This week I'm interviewing Dani Arkless, and she is an Associate Creative Director at AnalogFolk based in the Northeast and commutes to London once a week. She studied advertising at Sunderland University and helped establish the Young Creative Council, supporting emerging talent. That's how I first met Dani, actually. And later she collaborated with She Says to create the first ever female-only awards. And she continues to mentor through Creative Mentor Network, Creative Equals, and She Says, Who's Your Mama? Welcome, Dani.
Thanks for having me.
For everyone who obviously can't see us, Dani is wearing a fantastic pink top, strong Monday attire. For working from home, I need to take inspiration, and so bringing all the joy and colour to our call today. But yeah, so Dani, I want to ask you, where are we talking to you from? Kind of little hint in your bio there. And I think a lot of people take for granted how much goes into getting to anything as a parent. So what did you have to do to get here from this morning for our chat?
Well, I mean, realistically, I think we've only had to share a few meeting links and then I got the right one. But I think just to kind of, set the scene. So I'm in my house in Newcastle in the Northeast. But kind of physically this morning, I guess to get here and get, actually looking presentable and in the land of the living and professionalism. I had to get my little one, Emmy, she had to get ready for nursery this morning. So a big debate over what colour knickers she was going to wear. If it was the purple ones, the purple ice cream ones, the purple dinosaur ones. And just generally kind of chasing her around and corralling her until she actually gets, because we like to keep mornings just quite argument free. I think my record is in about 25 minutes.
Oh, wow. That's good.
And then kind of out the door. And my husband took her to nursery this morning.
And then, the calls start bright and early, I assume, once she's gone.
Yeah, so we kind of start between anywhere around about 9, 9:30, sometimes 10, but general log on time is 9:30. So if people do need to do kind of nursery runs, school runs, it's kind of all factored in, which is really nice.
That's fun. That's great. Yeah, before we kind of start, I'm going to do something which I didn't really tell you in the questions, but I asked you for what your favorite food placing thing to do was. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out what your unicorn name is. And so to discover this, we're going to use lovely AI. I'm not going to say a particular AI engine. They're all fabulous in their own accord, but to discover some options, and then we can christen you, Dani, and what your new unicorn name is. So to find that out, I'm going to input said information. So I'm going to say, create me 3 options. Then we get to pick one of a unicorn name for a person called Dani Arkless who likes. So what were your favorite food place and thing to do? And we'll see what it gives a little giggle.
Interesting. Okay, so I might have to be quite particular because my answer was actually going to be the food that I really like is basically the food that I fancy at the time.
Okay.
The last really, really good thing that I ate up here, which could be quite interesting for a unicorn name, was shakshuka.
Oh, wow. How am I going to spell that?
Good challenge for you there.
Hopefully I've spelled it correctly. And what is your favorite place to be?
Well, 2 options there.
Okay.
So my favorite place to be, quite strangely linking to the shakshuka thing, is a restaurant. So I would probably say weighing it up because I had a spa weekend this weekend as well. It's in between a really nice restaurant and a spa. If the two are combined, a really nice restaurant at a spa, even better.
I need to up my typing skills. Need to be quicker. And then, yeah, things to do. What do you love to do?
Related to what I've previously said, I really like to eat food. My favorite thing, it's my favorite thing to do. I think the whole spa restaurant thing, like maybe if we join the two up, submerged in water, eating food.
Okay. Oh my, I mean, submerged in water eating food is delightful. That sounds like I think anyone's dream,
Very
really. So
unicorn behavior.
yeah, this is tough. Okay, we have three names, and you get to choose. So the first one is saffron spice swirl. Don't know. Oh, interesting. We could have velvet vapor mist or azure glaze dancer.
What's the
Barantas.
second one? Velvet.
Velvet vapor mist.
I think it has to be that one.
Okay, let's do
Velvet.
that. I mean, I did give it your name, and it still didn't use like so maybe Dani Velvet Vapor Mist. Right. So moving on, more about you. So Vapor Mist. Here we go. What are you? An art director, copywriter, hybrid?
Yeah, I guess to go kind of way back, like my trade is an art director, so I was always inclined to be more on the visual side. I think since kind of moving up the ladder, it has to be a mixture of both. So I would say right now hybrid between art director and copy, but people are kind of doing everything all at once now.
Yeah.
So I think kind of having skills across both kind of really sets people up for success these days.
Yeah. And how have you found it? So starting as an art director, actually, and moving like into the hybrid role, is that are you have you kind of taken to that quite easily as you moved up, or did you
Yeah.
find that?
I mean, so when I came back to Analog Folk, after mat leave, that's when I got a promotion. That promotion meant splitting with my copywriter at the time. So not
Mm.
only did I come back from mat leave, didn't really know my ass from my elbow, then it was like, now I've got to learn loads of copywriting skills and I've got to do this by myself. So yeah, that kind of coming back from mat leave sort of compounded everything, but also made me, I had to step up. But you know what your brain's like when you come back from mat leave. So I thought that made it kind of twice as difficult because I was without my copywriter. I'd stepped up, I got a promotion, had to sort of prove myself again. So it compounded the situation. It wasn't just like, here you go, we'll send you on a copywriting course. It's like now you're in
Mhm.
charge of certain accounts and also you're by yourself. So it was
Mhm.
hard, but I would say I kind of came out the other end better for it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one as people like progress up the ladder, and especially I think people listening to this, hearing people getting into creative direction roles, that's always kind of a thing that worries some people. But yeah, I wanted to go back to the start a bit. So obviously, starting out as an art director, so why advertising as a career, and how did you get into it?
So way back when, I mean, this was like when I was at school. I was always interested in art and creativity, but I kind of knew that either being a photographer or being an artist, it wasn't really commercially viable. And being from a working class background, it certainly wasn't viable, because I had to get a job. I had to make sure that money was coming in and through college and uni, like I'd had a part-time job as well, so I knew the importance of that. So then kind of even before that, I studied semiotics in English. And that kind of really was like a light bulb moment for me. It was just a Tommy Hill figure ad, but I still remember it. It was for Tommy Jeans. So there was a male model, a female model. They were kind of, in like a hillside background, sunny. The guy was like topless. The headlines were in certain places, and I was like, this is kind of like joining all the dots for me. She'll probably never hear this, but my English teacher at the time was Miss Thompson, and she was a bit of a character. And I was really surprised that in that English lesson, something had just kind of, yeah, like really sort of turned the light bulb on in my head about I can bring these things together. I can bring image and I can bring words together in a creative way to kind of produce a piece of communication. Then in art at the time as well, so at GCSE level, so this is all at school. I was studying artists like Barbara Kruger, pop artists like Lichtenstein, and all of them were kind of like words and pictures, words and pictures. So then I was like, art can kind of transcend into ads, and then did art and photography. Had a really amazing tutor called Sheila Hitchcock. She was able to really kind of progress me and really push me to kind of like elaborate on these skills. And then I did advertising at Sunderland Uni with another great lecturer called Keith Nevins, who pushed me into really getting into the advertising scene within London. So we'd go to London, me and my copywriter at the time, Paul Mann, who you know from the Young Creative Council. We used to save up all of our money, come down to London and do like a week worth of crits with the likes of Dave Trock, Graham Fink, Dave Dye, Ben Akers at BBH, Lucy Collier at Wine and Kennedy's. And they inspired us. And that's kind of, in short, that's what the journey sort of was. And then we got a placement before we even graduated uni.
That's amazing. Well done. Yeah, it's like a job before you even finished. That's fantastic, Danny. And like, I mean, it is really interesting, yeah, to hear your background. Ironically, kind of similar to mine, is that there wasn't money to be sitting around. You're getting, you have to get a job,
Yeah.
and it's very hard, isn't it, to go from placement to placement. So yeah, I mean that drives even more. But yeah, I would love to hear a little bit some about the work you've made and stuff that you really are proud of. So tell us a bit about one project that you're particularly proud of and that kind of shows off, dare we say, that unicorn magic that you have.
Yeah, of course. A lot of the work that I'm proud of, I'd say every single brief that I get, I set off with the best intentions. And then kind of as it goes through the funnel, kind of things get stripped away and it's not necessarily the thing that you dreamt it would be. So a piece of work that I'm really proud of, it was almost circumstantial. So during COVID, so this is like 6 years ago now, we had a charity in the building. So this is when I was at Atomic. It was called AKFC, so Alive and Kicking Football Club. And we unfortunately got furloughed at that time. And a loophole was that you could work for charities. So we continued to work with this charity, so Alive and Kicking Football Club based in Hoxton. They help people in sub-Saharan Africa. They make really creative footballs. They make really creative kits. They're kind of like an imaginary team that people can really get behind and get their merchandise to support these people in Africa with health and welfare and education. So we really liked the guy who was sort of fronting it, and it was basically about making them famous. So the kind of thing that came out of it was really quite simple. We wanted to get them recognized on a bigger global platform. So at the time, the biggest platform was FIFA 21. So part of our idea and part of our ambition was getting a new kit designed. So my friend Mark Bennett at his agency, he helped design the strip in collaboration with Hummel because he had the contacts there. So it was a new strip that was designed. We done some photography. We done a sizzle reel, and then we started approaching FIFA, and then we basically did like a challenge within FIFA where you had to build a squad of 11 African players to unlock the kit within the game. And then we got the news it's only going to be live for a week within the game. So we were like, this is great, we're in the game, but we've only got a week. So how are we going to tell people about it? And again, Ed, the head of AKFC, he pulled some strings and we got Alex Awobi to launch it on Twitch, playing the game. And then his uncle, JJ Kocher, joined him as well. So, I mean, talk about the stars aligning. And their subscriptions went through the roof because not only was the kit desirable, it was the first time in FIFA they'd like launched a kit that was available in the game, but also in real life, apart from like club kits, And that project, if it wasn't for COVID and us being able to work on charity work, would have never have happened, So yeah, the stars just aligned for us and it went crazy. Got picked up by all of the football journalism magazines and things like that. So yeah, it just took off.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I didn't even know that about furlough, that you could work on charity things, but talk about taking an opportunity and cracking it right open there, Danny. That's fantastic. And I'll share links obviously for listeners in the chat to work so they can see a bit more. But yeah, really, really great to hear that. Yeah, taking that furlough, making it into something really, yeah, powerful for your portfolio and stuff as well. Um, but we're going to go into a bit about you being a mom, and we've heard a little bit about lovely Emmy. But yeah, for our listeners, like tell us a little bit about your family structure. To do you have a partner, and a little bit about Emmy and what maybe your kind of family structure around you up in the northeast.
Yeah, for sure. So within the household, so there's me, my husband Paul, we've got little Emmy who's 2.5, and then we've got our little ginger cat called Gus, our little red-headed cat. So he's grew up with Emmy. He's like 3.5, and yeah, that's our kind of main family structure in our household. And then kind of a bit further afield, so 20 minutes down the road is my mum and dad and my sister. So they're in Sunderland, about 25 minutes away. And then a little bit further afield than that, you've got my in-laws. So my husband's mum, dad, sister, brother, and their kind of extended families as well. Being in the northeast and kind of having that was one of the deciding factors to move here. So Paul shifts because he works shift work. So they're quite complicated, earlys, late nights. I'm down London once a week, so we need cover on a Thursday. We've got my sister if Paul's on nights, she comes over to bridge the hour when Paul goes out to work, and I come in from London. And Paul's mum usually stays over about twice a month to kind of cover the early shifts when
Mhm.
I go out. And then Paul goes out, someone to cover that kind of hour and take Amelia to nursery. So yeah,
Mhm.
one of
Yeah.
the most important members of our family is definitely our combined life calendar, which has what we're doing, where we're going, Paul shifts, my plans, etc. So that kind of makes life work for us as well.
Yeah, good planning, good planning. Gosh, yeah, you definitely need it. But so good to hear there's like family actually close by. But yeah, that I like you kind of touched on it, that reason to move back up. Yeah, when you had Emmy, where were you at in your career? You kind of said a little bit at the start about the promotion, but before you had her, where were you at?
So I was at AnalogFolk. So I was in copywriter, art director team, senior creative, kind of getting like, decent projects, getting decent work out and things like that. So that's where I was in my career. But what I did notice about AnalogFolk was that there was a lot of young families, and not just kind of dads with young families, women as well, with 1 or 2 kids, or people going off on mat leave, or people coming back. At my previous agencies, I don't really think, I probably saw a handful of mums, and I saw people, becoming pregnant, but then not coming back. And I was like, I don't really know how it's going to work, but at Analog Folk, I think I could kind of see other people making it work. So that made it easier. We were still in London at the time. We were living in Crystal Palace in a 2-bed flat, and we were there until we moved out. I think Amelia was about 17 or 18 months when we moved. Yeah, we made the decision to move up to Newcastle, and everything kind of from Paul getting a job at a rail depot in Newcastle. That's when it all started like happening. So
Yeah.
it was all of these factors of like, do we want to stay here? No, but where do we go? And then the kind of, yeah, just almost getting like the urge to move. So
Yeah.
we moved out, and then rented a place in Newcastle, which was actually the place next door. And
Oh,
then
right. Okay. Yeah.
this house came up for sale, and we went for it.
That's great. You literally got to try the next door neighbor's house now. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it
That's
was
really
all, I'm a real stickler for process and thinking things through and making sure that it works. The
okay.
only reason why this works for us, we have a metro station on the end of the street that
Okay.
takes me into Newcastle, then I can get to London, there's a direct train, it takes 2.5 hours. That means Paul's mum, who doesn't drive, gets the train from Middlesbrough. She doesn't need anyone to get here. She hops on the metro. She's here. And then also the rail fares down to London, they're not
Hmm.
cheap. So with Paul's work, we get discounted rail tickets. So that's how it all
Great.
that's
Yeah.
how it
Good
all
planning.
works.
All right. So you're like a real planner, which is that's interesting. Like, yeah, to kind of really work it all through. Yeah. There's a lot to think of when you're moving, no matter whether it's a couple of streets away or like up to the northeast with the small one and everything. Great to hear that you kind of thought of those things through and yeah, handy with the train and all that. Yeah, because it does add an extra cost, that commute. A lot of people think to move away and I'll commute back and forth to London, but it's a huge cost, isn't it, to people? So then, like, you kind of touched on it a little bit that you've been at other agencies and hadn't really seen parents, and then you went to Analog Folk and you'd seen, more kind of parents there, and especially women that were had kids. So did you think before you had Emmy it would change your career anyway? And if so, what way? Or if not?
I mean, you never know what it's going to change until you've actually gone through it. But all I knew was that other people were making it work. So I was like, well, if I can see that, then I know it's possible for me. I think that's when I knew that it was kind of like a safe environment. My job would be safe and I would also be safe and I would be protected.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people kind of like hope for the best. I'm like damage limitation. I'm like, I don't just hope for the best. It's like I want the best and I want to make things possible. And it's funny, on Thursday, our managing director, Anna Lou, she was saying how many apologies she had to deliver when she was in the industry and had her two kids. And she just used to apologize to everyone. She was apologizing to work, apologizing to her husband, apologizing to the kids for
Hmm.
just kind of like not being there.
Yeah.
And I
Mm.
think people need to realize you're one person and you can't do everything. And everyone is just trying their best. But we also need environments where people can be their best and they certainly don't have to apologize for the lives that they want.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it's really important, isn't it? I mean, people say the see it, be it thing, but yeah, if you saw that in your company that I can be a working mother and it's not going to affect my career, it gives you more confidence, and then you're that for somebody else. But yeah, interesting. So I want to talk a little about maternity leave because I think, it's different for everyone. How did you find like going off maternity leave, but also that kind of like handing over of work and letting things go?
Yeah, maternity leave, to be honest, was quite a novelty. I started maternity leave on the Friday and went into hospital on the Tuesday. So I didn't have any time off to prepare, but obviously, me being me, everything was sorted. And then you're just all consumed with this new little baby that's in your life. And then you kind of like work is just totally forgotten about. There's no any which way to it. You have to just focus on doing your best, with the little baby that you've been greeted with. Massive learning curves. It's like going back to school. Luckily, I had a very practical husband to set up bottle machines and help figure out prams and car seats and things like that. But like you get in touch with your body and this new baby in ways that you can't even explain. And you learn how to get on the bus again. You learn how to get on a train. But there's so much more to think about because you can't just go out the door and you can't just get in the car and drive. You have to remember X, Y, and Z. And for someone who doesn't really like packing, I used to kind of feel quite trapped on those
Yeah.
days. But I knew like at the start, you gotta still take care of yourself, right? So gotta get in the shower, gotta look presentable because then that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the day. I'm not gonna lie. Some days you're just like, I can't be bothered, don't want to go out. But I think those were the days that it was quite dark and quite lonely.
Mhm.
So what we did was to kind of prepare in advance. So I learned how to drive again. So I had that kind of autonomy and freedom. So I
Mhm.
took top-up lessons, and then I kind of joined a group called Bump and Baby, and these ladies were my, like, second family, especially in London when my family wasn't just round the corner. And yeah, then I think, maternity leave, it was 10 months and you really sort of get into a flow. I was doing exercise classes called Sweaty Mama, which I really enjoyed. But I had to really try and get out every day, even if it was just for a walk. If it's a dull and gloomy day, still kind of get all of the practical things on: waterproof shoes, good waterproof jacket, good waterproof kind of pram, all of the practical stuff to enable you just to get out of the house. 'Cause I found
Yeah.
if I stayed in, I would just go crazy.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. It's like sort yourself and then, yeah, get out that door. But it is a whole. It's interesting what you said there. Just learning how to get on and off the bus again because you now have a buggy in tow and a massive change bag. Everything is a new adventure, but embracing that as much as you can. And so, did you have any like big fear or big excitement about going back to work?
It's definitely ready, like, I did embrace mat leave as, like, a break from work, and then when I was going back, I got a phone call, about a week before I was going back from my boss at the time. He said that he was leaving, and then we had a restructure, so I wasn't going back into what I'd known. I was going back
Okay.
into, like, having no boss, which
Wow.
was scary. I was
Yeah.
going back without my copywriter, who was still there, but who was also in an ACD position. I was kind of like put into it, but I was also like this is an opportunity
Hmm.
because I don't. I sort of did and didn't feel supported. I don't think work really put a lot on me at first. Again, I think that's sort of part of a lot of people there with young families. They kind of know that you're like, you're not really with it. You're probably not really sleeping an awful lot. I mean, we were so lucky with Emmy. Sorry for anyone who's gonna hate me, but she's a 12-hour gal. Like, she's a
Oh gosh.
solid 7/7. And to be honest, like,
Wow.
I thank her for that because I think it would have been even harder if I was running on little sleep, as well as,
Mhm.
like, all of those changes that are going on in your brain. So your brain's kind of, like, rewiring, and then I got put into, like, a position with more responsibility. So, like, what I had to learn on mat leave, like, looking after a newborn and kind of, like, surviving, relearning everything, I sort of had to go back to work and do it again.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
opened Photoshop and I was like, couldn't tell you what to do.
I mean, yeah, it's like I've forgotten how to use a computer after 10 months, definitely. That's a lot of change, especially to get that call, like I'm leaving, something like my partner's been like promoted.
Yeah.
So was there a mixed thing of like I'm excited to take on the opportunity, but I suppose then there's a lot of change, right? So that's kind of slightly scary, or do you love being thrown in the deep end?
I don't love it because,
Yeah.
again, I'm processed, like, tell me what to do and I'll
Hmm.
do it. Let's, like, everyone aligned. But I think for the first time in my life, I just had to wing it. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, I honestly don't know what I'm doing, but I'll give it a good go.
Hmm.
And I think there's some of that imposter syndrome that comes in. I think also, Kira, like, when you've got a kid, you have to just get on with it.
Yeah.
There was even more pressure because I've gotta get up to the nursery to pick her up. I have to get all of this done by then, so I didn't even have time to think,
Yeah.
like, about all of these things or even to worry. And I would
Mm.
say rather than
Yeah.
procrastinate on every little thing or thinking like, what will this person like? What will that person like? It's like, I'm just gonna do it. So I
Yeah.
think efficiency, I couldn't tell you how much I can get done in an hour now. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, it does make you more time efficient. You have no choice, right?
got no choice.
It's either like
So,
get it
get
done
it done.
or it won't happen.
Yeah.
Um, to people who don't have kids or they're planning on it, actually it gives you a lot of freedom when you don't overthink things,
100%.
ironically, doesn't it? But yeah, based on that, going back to work, there's lots going on, you're planning planning lots. You talked a little bit about your support structure up in the Northeast, and I'd like to kind of, yeah, hear more about that. I think what I really want to give listeners is a little bit of an insight into practicalities, which I think you're especially really good at thinking and planning. But also, if you don't mind sharing what any costs of that involve, like childcare per day, per week, whatever you feel comfortable with sharing, and how you kind of thought that through when you're going back to work.
Yeah, weirdly, it seemed as though we had more money when we were in London. But what was a kind of struggle? I mean, nursery fees. Amelia has been in nursery 5 days a week since she was 10 months old. We looked into kind of like me going back to work part time, and it was just too much of a cut for the mortgage that we had. So when we moved up here, we also had a 6 month period where we were renting the property next door, paying for this mortgage and paying nursery fees. So not to go into like too much detail, but that's like three decent mortgages, over a grand a month for all three.
Yeah.
And that's hard. I don't kind of get involved with certain benefits that were on. Is it 33 days and all this kind of stuff? My husband sort of manages the finances on that side, which I really appreciate. We divvy things up, and that side is like his side. And it's now gone down a little bit because Amelia's slightly older. But at the moment it's sort of about £900 a month, just
Yeah.
over.
Yeah. It's just good, I think, for people to know that about when you're negotiating wages and, knowing what your costs are going to be on top of it. It does pass and get better, but
Mm.
it's important, isn't it? I'm like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
these babies are expensive.
Yeah, and
Um,
also like riding off the back of mat leave, when we got 12 weeks maternity pay, full pay, work were able to stretch that for me over the 10 months. So I was kind of getting a wage each month instead of it all being at the beginning. But even that, you've still got to cover your overheads. So if you do want a child, it was like you've got to save so that you can top up your wages each month. And then when they go to nursery, you still won't save because you've got nursery fees if that's what you plan to do. We never planned for Amelia to be with family when she was up here. That was never the deal because we didn't want to feel like she was not a burden, because I think her grandparents would be happy to look after her. But that's the setup that we had in London, and that's the setup that we wanted here as well, because we think nursery for her, she's eating a variety of food, she's gaining social skills. She goes in every day and she runs up to the people who work there and she hugs them. But she also loves to see mum, dad, and then grandparents when they pick her up as well. She seems like a really well-rounded kid at the moment, which
yeah,
is great.
that's great. That's really great. There is a lot of advantages to creche, isn't it? I mean, I see it with my own too. Um, but yeah, so that's, the kind of practicalities. And then with work, were they flexibility you've talked a little bit about? Obviously, we're talking to you from up in north, so you must have flexibility if you're working up north. So yeah, how it came about and what you do, what your kind of flexibility is now.
When that all kind of started, and when Paul got his job offer, you can imagine how excited the family were. But then it was like, I've got to have this conversation with work. Which I honestly didn't worry about, because what the company had allowed was, there was someone who was living in Wales, there was someone who was living in Yorkshire, we've got someone in Budapest who works for us full time, we've got someone in Glasgow, and everyone has different flexibility allowances. So depending on how far they are away from the office determines their days in, and it kind of works on an individual basis. So people can work from anywhere that they want, and then we kind of touch base in the office accordingly. So our usually have like a creative studio get together. But people need to appreciate, like, creative people need their freedom. And if you give people enough responsibility and trust, the work will get done, even if that means that someone doesn't necessarily have to work the 9 to 5.
That's great, actually. That's pretty interesting to say to somebody like this is the job. what do you need and the parameters to get it done versus you telling everybody it's 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or whatever. Yeah. Okay. So a little bit now we're going to kind of go into like thriving and how we were bossing in as an associate creative director. And I wanted to know, do you think becoming a mother, has it given you more of a sparkle, give you more confidence? How do you think it's affected you holistically as a creative?
For me, I've got more of an attitude of I don't care about office politics. Not that there's much at our place. I just don't get caught up in things like there's a bad piece of feedback. Okay, we'll deal with it. Let's move on. I'm just very practical these days because, the time that we get as creatives is shorter and it's not going to get any longer.
Mhm.
The other thing that I would say, like, I read a really good book recently called Mother Kind. I don't know whether it was recommended on the Unicorn Union group, but I read it and it's been a really, really good book for the start of this year. It's basically about the transition from
Mhm.
not being a mum, so your life beforehand and your life now. The word for it is matrescence, which is
Oh, yes.
doing
Yes.
the
I think it
rounds
makes a name.
online
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
because it's not in the dictionary and it should
Yeah.
be. And that talks about the hormonal and the physical and the mental changes that a woman goes through. But what that means is that as a mum, we can really get caught up in, I'm like the dominant caregiver. So
Yes.
we just forget about ourselves. And a really big thing this year was I'm going to put myself first. Amelia is a toddler now. She's still demanding, but she's not as demanding as what she was. And my space is opened a little bit so I can go to the gym on a morning. I can do potentially monthly spa days. I can just look after myself a bit more. I can do more reading. So I think I've read like 4 books this year already and not feel guilty about it. I think it's a
Yeah.
really big thing that we forget about ourselves. Am I like allowed to do that? Like, have I got time to do that? And
Mm.
we feel guilty because we've been looking after everyone else. And
Yeah, that's great to hear. That's really, really, really important, isn't it? I think it is very hard at the start, but like you're saying, that once they get a bit sturdier, you feel okay to take that time. But I think as a creative person, that is so important. Reading books or whatever it is that inspires you. I think a monthly spa treatment sounds fantastic. But yeah, talking a little bit about the creativity and reading and all that kind of jazz. Um, do you think your creativity has changed anyway from being a mother? And with that, anything you've made since having Emmy, what's the work that you're most proud of?
I think I'm just a bit quicker at really defining like what clients want. So
Hmm.
trying to listen a little bit more and not thinking like it's about me and what I think this work should be. More of like interpreting it through their lens. That's how I think it kind of has changed my creativity. And yeah, the work that I'm proud of since I came back, we were after a head of creative, but since kind of promoted someone internally. But the work was actually for that position, the idea behind it, and it had to go out really, really quick. And it was to find a new head of creative, but we also wanted to increase the talent pool for women creative directors. So I made some posters. It was called Changing the Face of Creative Leadership. So I took male leaders in the creative industry, so the likes of Nils, Leonard, David Wigglesworth, Rory Sutherland, Dave Trott. Who else did we have? Graham Fink. We had Mark Denton on there. I mean, John Hegarty, Charles Saatchi. Changed them to their female counterparts. So John Hegarty became Jane Hegarty. Uh, and Davina Trott, Charlotte Saatchi. So we basically I turned them into women. I put it out on LinkedIn with the blessing of everyone who was featured. And this angle was, if our great female leaders of the past who were men had have been women, would their career had have been the same? So that's the work that I was super proud of. I
Mm.
actually just did the posters on my phone using a AI face app, uh, which
Yeah,
changed them into women. I got a really lovely designer in the Netherlands to do the posters, which were based on, the posters like back in the 60s. So they're all like Bill Burnback posters and things like that. So even though we didn't hire, what we did do is we built an open source resource of female creative talent. So we
mhm.
still got that, and we made that open when the post went out on LinkedIn for everyone to access. So
That's
it's a
great.
really, really useful resource as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely. I mean, I saw it, Danny. They were brilliant. They're so funny. I think you even shared them in the Unicorn Union chat, and everybody was having a good giggle about guessing, or yeah, just going, God, actually, he would have been a really attractive woman, or
Yeah.
yeah, but, and a great idea to give away that information too of all those people that actually could have got that position. Lovely, lovely. It's interesting about your creativity changing into more an emotional intelligence. I would kind of like it kind of makes you grow up and become a bit more, even you're saying, when Danny was describing there, she was putting kind of her arms out, like minding the creative department, you become a real nurturer. But there's lots of great things and fantastic things about motherhood that make you a better leader, better department head, etc. That you just don't realize are going to happen to you. So it's so lovely to hear that that's exactly what's happened for you. I suppose we were talking a little bit about keeping things for yourself, like the reading, the monthly spa date. So if there was one tip or hack you could give a fellow creative mother on concepting, what would that be? Because I know you're kind of the time efficiency
Yeah,
is definitely a thing, but what do you do when you're like really under it with that time constraint to concept or get over a problem?
so I'm constantly on social media. I'm creative lead on the Galderma account. So social is like a really big part of what we do. So whenever I kind of see like something cool, I just basically save it. So I've got like a little bank on Instagram, which I go there for kind of like daily inspiration, or when I tend not to get into this mindless scroll these days, but I realize kind of it does serve a purpose to what I do. Also, I'm not shying away from using AI as a sparring partner. From to kind of like fill that gap what I used to have with my copywriter. I mean, it will never fill that gap. But I think what you can do is, you can be more efficient with visuals and mocking visuals up. I can also be more efficient when it comes to strategic thinking. So if I've got an idea and I'm trying to post rationalize it, I can kind of get a few cues from that.
Yeah, which is I mean, that's the thing. AI will definitely help people with little hacks, but just having that little idea of, yeah, saving inspo and keeping that to hand to really get you out of like a creative block or something when you're under, that's a really good idea. We talked a little bit about kind of the creativity process. You kind of love, really minding everyone, giving that space. Um, and then we've already kind of talked about how you kind of mind yourself in the midst of it all. Uh, what is the one thing you wish you knew before becoming a mother as a creative now?
I think, well, just kind of like how you can switch off. So, back in the day when we used to work hard and play hard, right?
Hmm.
So it used to be in the office 5 days a week, usually at the pub 5 days a week, and usually hanging out with people from work at the weekend, and sometimes working weekends as well. But I think as soon as Amelia gets picked up from nursery at 5 o'clock, she comes through the door at 5:30, and that blocker is in my diary. I'm like pens down, laptop shut. And I think becoming a mum has really taught me to just switch off. So work
Hmm.
is work. And I think I didn't know that before, but I have a
Right.
bloody good excuse now to keep work at work. I think that's something that I wish I knew beforehand. I wish I knew how to switch off it's really inspiring watching Amelia kind of learn things and pick up things. And she's not going to be small for that long, and I'm going to probably have a really big impact on her life. She needs to, she's the best piece of work that I've
Yeah.
made, so I should put as much effort as I can into her, and watching her grow is like, it's just a really, really big privilege. And I would never want my work to get in the way of that. I don't
Yeah.
want to be saying sorry to her. I want her to remember, like, Mummy was always there. She was always looking after me.
Yeah, that's really powerful. It's okay to take time off, like you're saying, because I think, yeah, as an industry, when you first start out in it, you feel like you have to work every hour to prove
Yeah.
yourself. But how, yeah, becoming a parent can really show you the power of having that time off, and for your brain, really, isn't it, to like, rejuvenate and think of and become back stronger. So yeah, on that though, but knowing what you know now, like, and having your child and the whole trajectory of your career and stuff, would you still pick this career?
I definitely still pick the career, but I'd be really picky about the agencies that I work for, because there's people who have gone through parenthood at my work. They empathize with, if I have to take Emmy to the doctors or if she's sick, they can understand that, and that's the reason that it works. So I would pick this industry, like, without a shadow of a doubt, because it's brilliant, and you get to meet a lot of inspiring people, you get to make stuff, you get to learn about different things, but it would have to be at an agency that allowed me to put motherhood and have motherhood as like an equal weighting.
Yeah, great. That's really good to hear. That's the thing about certain agencies do allow that, and I do believe they're the ones that thrive even more. But what do you think our industry could do more for creative mothers?
It's flexibility. It's saying, like, when what works for you.
Yeah,
And being a mum, like, a deadline would never get missed, because we know the responsibility, but we might not be able to start until 10 o'clock because we've had school drop off. So I think it's flexibility, and that's not just for mums. I think that's just creative people in general,
yeah, yeah,
rather
exactly.
than someone chaining us to a desk and saying,
Yeah,
"Come here, do work." We've
yeah,
proved that we don't really need offices, and the world is a lot more global.
yeah, yeah. Well, Picasso wasn't chained to a desk, was he? So there we go. So it's interesting, definitely, about creative people. Yeah, flexibility, and sometimes we need the space to think and to be different places. End on a very unicorn-esque thing. Now you've been christened our Danny Velvet Vapor Mist. So what would you say Danny Velvet Vapor Mist is your superpower?
My superpower, I think, not take myself too seriously. Sometimes life is messy. Things won't go the way that you want. For example, like forgetting about World Book Day the other day. So I think give yourself a little bit more grace.
Awesome. Danny, thank you so much for being a guest on Ask a Unicorn. It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah, I'll go forth with your new christened name.
Super nice and really nice to catch up with you, Kira.
Unicorn!
I hope you enjoyed listening to a conversation with a real life unicorn. Please follow us to hear more, and any shares with creatives or mothers would be truly appreciated. Credit to Simone Hendrick for our logo design, and to my two sons for their wonderful voices. Produced and edited by myself.